saw the mic there, but I'm one of 11 children, and I grew up kind of believing you just shout it out and folks hear. Am I all right? Can you hear me? Then I'm not going to stand behind that podium this evening. It would feel so cold and so irresponsible of me to do so. And I'm also not going to stand up here and talk with you a lot about me. Well, first of all, my mother is present, and my mother and father taught us that if you do the right thing, you don't need to talk about yourself. People will know you by your work. So if you will allow me, I really want to just be home a little bit. Let this be a homecoming. You know, very often I sneak into Tarboro, North Carolina, and I go to the bosom of my family, and that's where we nurture each other. That's where so many things that have happened wonderful in any of our lives have occurred. And it's seated in the bosom of my mother's company with the memory of my father ever present by his picture over every manner you can find. But this evening, I want to share a little beyond my family, because in this moment of economy, this moment of presidential, Senate, Congress, and local elections, we're all family. We're all family. Now, sometimes we're not the best functional family, but we're family. We family. Some of us don't know we're related, or we act like we're not. But we're family. We're family. And I want to talk a little bit about that. You see, families sometimes can get uppity. Some of us can go off to the city and think we're a little bit better than others. Some of us can stay home and work the land a little bit and be a little bit closer to what mom and dad and grandma and Aunt Bebe and them work so hard to put on our table. Do you realize I stand before you and I have visited, yes, visited, not flew over, stopped, went in and did business in over 60 countries. Yeah. And Tarboro, North Carolina remains my home. I've really stayed in a lot of places, but nowhere can nurture like being amongst family. So this evening, forgive me if I don't bring you what you thought I should, because I want to just bring you the girl who grew up in Tarboro, North Carolina. By the way, she's the one I take with me when I visit palaces and different government places around this world. When I visit different economies or talk with employees with different languages and listen to music somewhere. But I'm one of the 11 kids. I can talk over the music at this point. I want to talk. What is that music? Good. I want to talk with you, not talk at you. Now, Aretha Bryant and John Bryant raised 11 children. We're quite a clannish family. Most of what I share with you, if you know any member of my family, you already know this evening anyway. Many of you were brought up very similar. My best girlfriends from school are in this auditorium this evening. Doris, Stiff, and Sabina. Now, I call her Worsley, okay? Okay, because that's how we grew up. And so, we all grew up in a community in Tarboro that didn't feel broke down and poor and all the things I read about Edge from. We didn't grow up with that mindset of poverty. Don't get it twisted. We didn't think we were all rich and everything. But we knew we were enriched. And when we got together, and I shared this with my children, I said, you know, when I went to school, and I've said it publicly, it might be out there on the internet somewhere. Everything's out there on the internet, so please. But I said it publicly, when we went to school, we didn't have all the pages in our books. And I'm talking to family now, I'm telling my truth. So if you want to throw me on the internet, throw the whole thing out. But I didn't come up here to front in front of you.
All right now.
Okay? I attended school in Tarboro, North Carolina. We didn't have all the pages in our books all the time. Am I telling the truth? But Mama and Daddy, my mama's here. I ain't gonna stand here and risk hell in front of my mama. Now, my mama and Daddy said, you're smart enough to figure out what's missing if you read the other page. And I felt fancy about that and wanted to explain why I wasn't getting the grade I needed to get in science. Y'all remember our science teacher, right? They gonna call me speak bombs out like that, okay? But I decided to be smart and fancy and start off about why I wasn't going to get a good grade. And my mother said, when you miss the pages, write what you learned that's missing, take it in and leave it for somebody else.
Right now.
Now, we're in a political season. We're in an economic season. And many of you in this room are in the midst of a storm. We know what storms do. And we know how we have to grow and we have to replenish to fulfill from that storm. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do this evening, which is what my own precious mother and father taught us to do. Hear me, I say it, mother and father taught us to do. You got to learn the lesson from that storm. Now, some of y'all feel very educated this evening if you learn the lessons from storms. How many people in this room have been affected by the storm? Personally. Ain't that a blessing? That's a few hands. But every hand that didn't go up can still be a blessing.
Amen.
We can encounter storms of many different kinds. The storms of ignorance that have us way back and forth in indecision or have us be ill-informed. So we give our most precious citizenship rights second to our right of birth in Christ. Many of you are in Christ. If you're not in Christ, welcome. And we need to understand. We need to understand that one person can't be any stronger than the people that
right now.
My mother and father taught us that. My mama said it wasn't enough for you to get an A in math or English or whatever was your expertise. You had to help the brother or sister along.
All right now.
And make sure that they got it too. We are in storms, but what do? We weather storms. We weather storms. Y'all, I can get real dressed up and go a lot of places. I can get fancy and, do the bling thing. But when you go to bed at night and you lay your head down, you're still that same person. I'll put it to you this way. My mother-in-law, who is a beautiful British lady who's now in heaven, told me when I asked her advice about raising my children. Now, my mama raised 11, so, I was being nice to her by asking her. I had a queen right there. She told me two things that did stick with me. She said, one, your children more attention paid to what you do than what you say. I want to tell you the world does that too.
That's right.
More attention paid to what you do than what you say. And the other thing that she told me, and I listened and learned from it well, she said, and she'd been through World War I and World War II. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with the intricacies of what that meant to Europe. My mother-in-law is British. But she told me how everything was torn apart. And then my husband said as a little boy, all the men went to war. and these American soldiers landed. Remember, we didn't jump in to help in World War II right away as Americans. And these soldiers came in, and they gave him things. They gave him books. They gave him candies. They gave him American chewing gum and chocolate. And he ran home and he shared it with his mother, and she was like, "What is this? What?" Actually, she was like, "What is this? What is this?" And he explained that he tried to describe the people who had given it to him. And he described these people with very dark skin and talked about how they sounded different. And he said, "Mother, who are they? Can I keep it?" And she said, "Oh, yes, you can. They're from America. They're the gift of America. They're night soldiers." Now, I didn't really applaud when he called black folks night soldiers, okay? You can't be seen at night. But hear me and stay with me. There are many people in this season of storm who need some night soldiers.
All right now.
Yes. And many of these people don't just live out the storm or have damage to their homes. Some have damage to their homes. Some have damage to their communities. Some have damage to their perspective about where the world is right now. My best message I can offer is that you got to go down in your soul where it's quiet. Some of the biggest opportunities I've had and developed and grown from in business, in my personal life, in my family life, have been seated and found in the quiet of the night. Some of y'all know church. Peace be still. Peace be still. You remember the words of that song? Master, the tempest is raging. The billows are tossing high. Now, Princeville, North Carolina. Princeville, North Carolina. East Tarboro. We know about storms. We don't need to live in a world without storm. We do need to live in a world with the rafts of our belief, with the rafts of our education, with the rafts of our strength. When President Obama appointed me on the board of HBCUs, it wasn't something given as an honor. It was given as an obligation. How do we tie this together? How do we tie what I'm saying together this evening for you? One of 11 children. Same mom, same dad. Don't get it twisted. One of 11 children. Not necessarily the brightest one. Y'all would agree. Not necessarily the brightest one. Over 58 countries where I have done business. From Tarboro, North Carolina. I attended segregated schools, as some of y'all did if you old as I am. I don't know if you're at any age this evening because you look so nice. And then I had the privilege of attending an HBCU. And don't get that twisted either. Because HBCUs aren't just graduating HBs. Okay? And there are many young white women and young white men who attend North Carolina A&T State University and get their engineering degrees and get them as minorities. So this whole thing is all of us together. It's all of us together or all of us separated, depending on where you're going to see it from. My suggestion is that as we look to not just weather the storms, you see, I recall, I believe it was about 17 years ago, being in Washington, D.C., attending the Congressional Black Caucus's annual legislative conference. And I recall just about this time of year, maybe in September, a storm hit North Carolina. Y'all call it Floyd, and a lot of people in Princeville and Tarboro called it hell. And I was in Washington, D.C., and Reverend J.L. Armstrong, who is my minister, laid his brand new coat on the street of D.C. because he saw me distraught. I have a sister in this audience who's going to get me for saying this later, but I thank God for saying a lot of things. My sister Linda, I know her fondly as Zest, called me. And she said, Jan, I want you to pray with me. And I said, Zest, what's up? And she said, I need 2 prayers. I need one for my husband Larry because he's out there rescuing other people and I'm here in my house alone. And if he makes it back, I'll kill him. And 2, it wasn't that funny when she was saying it wasn't there. And 2, she said, I don't want to call Mama, but I want you to pray with me. I don't want to worry Mama, but pray with me. How many of y'all have called somebody you didn't want to worry somebody, but pray with me? And so we prayed, and we were in D.C., remember? And then after that prayer, I jumped up and ran. I think, Laura, it was the old executive building. I'm not sure why I'm remembering it that way. But I remember Rod Slater was then the United States Secretary of Transportation. And I did not know that you could, be shot for running in. Folks when they about to do a hearing. But I just ran up. Miss Smith goes to Washington or something. I just ran up and said, you got to know what's going on in our hometown. The next night, I attended the gala. I started to say Reverend G.K. Butterfield. Well, come on, y'all know he prayed a lot for us. But Congressman G.K. Butterfield, okay? And we dressed up and we went to the gala and my brother Carlton and I really weren't feeling fancy, Trish. We didn't feel like being fancy, but we went on. As a matter of fact, y'all, I thought I wasn't going to go. And I didn't really be telling you this, but it's appropriate. I went to the gala. Biggest event, right? President, First Lady come. By the way, it was President Bill Clinton at that time. And he could blow a horn too. And he made a mistake of blowing it on Arsenio Hall and got shot down. But that's all right. Took a lick and kept on ticking. That was a political statement. I'm not here to speak politically. I do think I speak as a citizen, though, and keep that right. So I'm at this gala, and we're dressed up and not really feeling great. And some people come over and say, Mrs. Howroyd. When people call me Mrs. Howroyd, they either don't really know me or something's wrong. Mrs. Howroyd, will you follow us? No, I will not. Mrs. Howroyd, we'd like you to follow us. So my brother Carlton, some of you know him, he grabs me and stands up and says, where are you taking her? Well, they didn't want to tell me where I was going. And now, I don't know how y'all were raised, but Mom and Dad raised us that sisters go with the brothers, they stay with the brothers, and they come home with the brothers, right? And so These people look very official, but I don't know them.
All right now.
And so Carlton is going with me. This wasn't what I came to tell you, but it's appropriate. We get up there, and Bill Clinton is standing there as president. And Rod Slater is standing there as an angel from heaven. Yeah. And he said, Janet, tell the president what you told me. Mind you, I had really bombarded him in your executive. And so, you know, I didn't have that moment to say, I'm speaking to the President of the United States. All I could think about was, Zess had called me from her house and the rains were still coming. And I told the President what was happening. The next day, Bill Clinton landed in Tarboro. And he told my mama, not to be sounding like Forrest Gump or anything, but he told my mama, your daughter sure does care about this community. Rod Slater said, this little lady from Tarboro, North Carolina, ran in and interrupted a hearing process to tell us what was going on. Y'all can tell somebody. You can't do anything else. Tell somebody. I had no idea that the president of the free world would fly in, and he made a commitment. Anybody in Princeville who wanted to have their home rebuilt would get the assistance to do so. Now I understand this President Obama has made that same commitment. When it looks tough, when you think you got to resort to making a way out of no way,
come on now.
Understand that everything has already been pre-designed. We don't know why things happen.
All right.
We don't understand why some storms hit people over and over again. We don't understand why some people look like they got it made and other people got to be making it more.
Come on now.
We don't understand that. But we walk by faith.
All right now.
Not by sight. And I'm home today in the middle of a very busy journey that will never reap me more than the opportunity to say, stay the course, stay the course, stay the course. All of us have storms. Psalm, Matthew, and rip the guts out of your. It hurt me to go see 1017 Bradley Avenue where I grew up with water rising up. It hurt me to see that. But don't live in that hurt. Do what my mama said. Let anger and hurt fuel you and create passion. Otherwise, you get old and ugly too quick anyway. We are a people who don't have to live in pain, even in storms.
Right now.
We are people who are related by our experiences as well as our bloodline. We are a people to who stand the whole of the United States up. We are people who get confused, abused. We are people who don't know why sometimes, but we know that. We are people who don't always know, but we walk by faith, not by sight. So if I say anything to you this evening, whether you're weathering the storm of Matthew, some of us haven't even healed from glory, whether we are weathering the storm of our kids, not really understanding what opportunity looks like because trouble is always around the corner. Some of y'all live next door to it, you know what I'm talking about. Whether we are weathering the storms of mistrust, doubt, or abuse of any nature. Everybody dressed up ain't free from pain.
Come on now. All right now.
Where we are weathering the storm of a broken heart. And I ain't talking about the kind Teddy sing about. Hey, but if you got that too. It doesn't matter what your storm is. Joy cometh in the morning.
All right now.
Joy cometh in the morning. Look, y'all. I grew up a nappy-headed little colored girl in Tarboro, North Carolina. I had an organization that does over $3 billion a year. That ain't a lot of money in this world. Oh, it's got a lot of zeros behind it, but Bill Clinton told me something one time. Bill Clinton said, don't get confused when he was throwing these numbers out at us about what the national debt was and gross net profit. And he said, don't get confused. Just take the zeros off, work it out, then put the zeros back.
My.
Now, I don't know where you are politically. It does not, well, it kind of does matter, but it really does matter. I don't know where you are politically. But let's tie some of this together so I can get off the stage and y'all can go home and start your weekend. Look, are you in your weekend? Look, I don't know, I'm in the middle of a 6-week travel, okay? But when G.K. Butterfield said, look, you got Senator Smith-Ingram going to contact you, you got an answer, what do? I answer. So I'm here in the middle of a long travel. Let's tie this together. One little nappy-headed girl from Tarboro, North Carolina. One of 11 children, same mom, same dad, one God. Over 58 countries. Visited and slept in palaces. By the way, the palace wasn't nearly as comfortable as the twin bed that my sister had. If you want to know. That's the truth. That's the truth. Okay? Appointments. Executive appointments. Speed dial. With people you read about and see about in different industries and different levels. Tarboro, North Carolina. The difference between where I started and where I am now is absolutely zero. You know why? Because Mom and Daddy made sure we understood who we were long before we went on to become that.
All right now.
This evening, my message is understand who you are. No matter where you are in the process of becoming that. And you never get there. It is an evergreen journey. I'm standing before you tonight. I believe I'm doing well in business. One thing could happen and boom.
All right now.
Know who you are.
All right now.
And know whose you are. And if you can help somebody, do it.
All right now.
Do it and do it quiet. I started out saying my mama told me the award is not the reward. Do it quietly. Do it quietly. We are a people, and when I say we are people, I'm talking about us from this neck of the woods. We are a people who know pain all too well. Let's take the pain out of that pain. Let's unhinge it. Let's let it all grow beautiful. Let's let it grow beautiful and wild and free. So that one generation, lest we slip to, we are people who aren't experiencing the same pains over again.
Man.
And that happens when we support each other. That happens when we don't see ourselves as my brother's keeper or my sister's keeper,
right
but
now.
keepers of the word. I didn't come to preach to you.
It's all right.
I came wanted to share what my mom and dad taught us. Education is freedom. Mom and dad taught us so many simple things. Mama used to fuss at us and say, if you're going to take something out of my kitchen, which was stealing, right, you better take it from your brothers and sisters, too. We got in more trouble for not taking something, but not sharing something. You see what I mean? Mom and Daddy taught us education is freedom. Daddy used to say, one for all and all for one. Y'all know this stuff. You grew up with it as well. Keep those things present in our lives as we weather these storms. Matthew isn't the last storm that I have.
That's right.
Thing, but storms come of all nature. Joy cometh in the morning. Joy cometh in the morning. Lay burdens down. Lay worries down. Pray in gratitude. Mama used to say, when you think you're hurting the most, go help somebody else. And you'll see how well you're doing. You know, joy cometh in the morning. And I am so blessed, so honored that you're here this evening, that I'm here this evening, and that we are here. I have home in California, home in Europe, Vegas. Don't call me, ask me if you can stay with me in Vegas. And Tarboro. And none of those matter anything if I don't prepare myself for my heavenly home. And you, and us. We're all in that point of preparation. Make the work you do here good. Keep the faith that you know that nobody can teach you about because you just so lived it. If you have not visited 58 countries, trust me when I tell you that when you live in the Word. So I came here this evening to receive an honor along with an incredible lady this girl. And we each received this from Senator and our representative, Smith-Ingram and Willingham, right? And I feel like I'm in the third grade in Miss Lois class. And I feel like she gave me a big speech to make. And I'm real nervous and had to run back there and go to the bathroom before I came out of the picture. Don't y'all put me on social media saying that. And talking to friends and family, because I told you when I received that honor, now quite a few minutes ago, I told you how I felt about that, and I told you who that honor was truly for. As we weather this storm, as we continue to build our lives, if we can't do anything but commit to be a little bit better neighbor, a little bit better citizen, a little bit better. And by the way, I really don't care whether you're Christian or whatever. No matter who you call God every day. And then shut up and listen. And God will speak. No matter where we are, no matter where you are on your journey, we all go to the same place at the end. We all go to the same place. So be fortified, be strong, be faithful in that journey. And I think, I think about Psalms a lot. I'm going to close up with you this evening by saying this. I believe that children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside and still a sense of pride. You know the word, right? We are a room full of adults this evening with some very adult challenges in front of us. We live in a world where adults act like children. If you can't do it for yourself, if you can't do it for the person beside you, have faith enough in God's world. Yes, God's world. You can put me out on that. Have faith enough in God's world that you do it for the children.
Man.
That you do it for the children. Amen. Not my children, not your children, our children. That we do it for our children. I am honored to stand before you, a child of God. I am honored to bring my message of joy in the midst of the storm. And I am truly honored to be at home amongst family, friends, and neighbors, and that we all lift ourselves up. I'm going to throw something out to you. When I step off of this stage and I get up those stairs, if there's any particular thing anybody needs to ask or say or communicate, I stand here ready to offer that to you. And in return, I simply thank you, because I didn't expect to come home to a storm, but I certainly am grateful to come home to arms reached out in the midst of a storm. God bless you.